Hi everyone, and welcome back to my channel. Welcome back to the Reading Through the Bible in a Year series. Today we will be talking about Deuteronomy. I just finished this book and started Joshua last night, so I came home for my lunch break. I knew I wanted to film this really quickly. So as always, we start off with who it's written by, and Deuteronomy is the last of the first 5 books that is written by Moses. And then for my general overview, I wrote first few chapters talks about Israel's refusal to enter God's land he promised them and the years they spent in the wilderness. Also wrote that it felt like I was having deja vu the entire book, felt like it was recapping everything that happened in Numbers as well as in chapters before. Chapter 5 talks about the 10 Commandments again. Chapter 8 is about remembering the Lord your God. Chapter 11 is loving and serving the Lord. After that, it was followed by more chapters recapping laws we heard in the prior books that we read. Chapter 18 mentions there will be a new prophet like Moses again. And then finally, the book ends with the Song of Moses, as well as Moses' final blessing on Israel and his death. So yeah, those are kind of my general overview of the whole book. Kind of like I said in the second point there, it really felt like I was having deja vu the entire time. I was like, we literally just read all about this. So definitely something to note if you're reading the books back to back like that. The first 5 books were written by Moses, so it makes sense why you rehear the same things again. Then for my didn't know / didn't realize section, the first one I wrote comes from Deuteronomy chapter 1 verses 16 through 18. I wrote, I always knew God was the ultimate judge and that he tells us at points in the Bible to not be afraid of other humans / care about what they think of us. Just wasn't sure where in the Bible, and seeing the words, you shall not be intimidated by anyone, which is verse 17 in my translation, is very comforting to know / be reminded. Followed later in chapter 7 verse 21, again, being reminded that we are not to dread anyone else. Man-made power, for God is with us. I think just overall, just a really good reminder that as sinful human beings that we are, it's very easy for us to judge others, but that doesn't mean we should be afraid of humans in general, because God is the ultimate judge, and he literally tells us to not be afraid of other humans and to not dread anyone else's man-made power. So the second thing I have is actually a question, which I kind of touched on earlier in this video, which is, was Deuteronomy's purpose to be a recap of what we read in the prior chapters of the Old Testament? So I thought we'd do a quick little Google search. As I've stated in other videos, that does not mean this is the best resource. However, it's definitely one to try to find some answers, obviously. One Google search says Deuteronomy is Moses' final address to second generation Israel. Its purpose is to challenge and exhort this generation to total devotion to the Lord within a renewed covenant relationship, promising blessings for loyalty and threatening curses for rebellion. Another Google says, why is Deuteronomy repetitive? And it says, Deuteronomy is a book that involves so much repetition. It retells the same stories we have already read in earlier books. Add to this the fact that the Jewish people reread the Torah every year, and it is repetition on top of repetition. Ooh, maybe a more helpful search here. I like this one. Is Deuteronomy a repeat of Numbers? And it says, like Chronicles, it repeats or restates information given in other books. As Chronicles repeats Samuel and Kings, so Deuteronomy repeats Exodus, Leviticus, and Numbers. That is, it repeats the books of the law. In fact, the name Deuteronomy means second law or second giving of the law. I'm so glad we Googled that. I love hearing this explanation of what Deuteronomy means, a quite literal translation, and I feel like that definitely answers the question, I hope so. I'm glad I'm not the only one who is like reading this book and just being like, this is literally just restating what we've already read, especially with like the laws and everything. I was just like missing something? Like, is that the whole point of the book? So glad we answered that question. The third thing I wrote was, I know the Bible talks about circumcision throughout, but I've never heard of the portion of it saying to circumcise your heart. This comes from Deuteronomy 10:12. So as to no longer be stubborn. I've never like heard of that idea before, or if I have, I definitely forgot about it. And I thought that was interesting because what I know of circumcision does not apply to me as a woman. So hearing and reading about a passage that talks about circumcising your heart, I thought that was very interesting that that could be applied to everyone. Okay, the fourth thing I wrote comes from Deuteronomy 15 verses 7 through 11. And it reads, if among you one of your brothers should become poor in any of your towns within your land that the Lord your God is giving you, you shall not harden your heart or shut your hand against your poor brother, but you shall open your hand to him and lend him sufficient for his need, whatever it may be. Take care lest there be an unworthy thought in your heart, and you say, the 7th year, the year of release, is near, and your eye look grudgingly on your poor brother, and you give him nothing, and he cry to the Lord against you, and you be guilty of sin. You shall give to him freely, and your heart shall not be grudging when you give to him, because for this the Lord your God will bless you in all your work and in all that you undertake. for there will never cease to be poor in the land. Therefore I command you, you shall open wide your hand to your brother, to the needy, and to the poor in your land. And for this one, I wrote, I just loved the message behind this overall, the reminder/command that we are to take care of those that have less than us, without judgment and without concern over how giving would affect where we stand in life. And I put in parentheses something I could work to put into practice. Yeah, again, just really loved that passage and general reminder of how we need to be keeping an eye out for people who aren't as fortunate as us. The last thing I wrote for this section comes from Deuteronomy 18:21-22. This passage addresses the question of how are we to know if a prophet is from God. Not only does God tell us how, he lets us know that we do not need to fear them. And I wrote in parentheses that this reminds me of all the times people claim to know what day the world will end and how it doesn't, because God tells us that no man will know when he is coming again. And finally, the last section we have is the favorite verse. This is the first time that I have multiple to choose from. We'll obviously insert a screenshot of the 4 that I have written down here. And I don't know which one of these is my fave, so I'm going to reread them real quick. Okay, after rereading them, I think I'm going to stick with the last one that I had written on that list, which is Deuteronomy chapter 31, verse 6. And it reads, "Be strong and courageous. Do not fear or be in dread of them, for it is the Lord your God who goes with you. He will not leave you or forsake you." I love this verse so much. It definitely foreshadows a very popular verse that will be read in Joshua. So I feel like this is very fitting that this is towards the end of Deuteronomy. I feel like it's a very good transition to the next book. Yeah, just a good reminder of, as Christians, how we are to act with the Lord on our side. This is definitely a good reminder for me. I, in certain situations, struggle to find strength and courage, and in God, the Bible tell us to not be afraid and that he is with you and he'll never leave us. It's a very beautiful reminder, so I'm very thankful for that. Yeah, that is all I have for Deuteronomy. Like I said, I have started Joshua, and it is 24 chapters, so I have a good feeling we will read through Joshua like no other. But yeah, stay tuned for that. As always, I hope you guys are having a good day, but if you're not, that's okay too. I will catch you guys in the next one. Bye!